to start off with, of course, we're just starting into our budget season, and last night, kind of give you some ground rules that we started off working with. Instead of calling a roll call vote each time, we're doing a voice vote, just to speed things along a little bit. And also, we had some discussion on the employee raises, and we hadn't made a hard decision on that. So basically, we'll be approving these agendas with the caveat that we will be going back and looking at those. That doesn't mean that it will change. That doesn't mean that it won't change. To just let you be aware, you may get approval here, but the money, the dollars that you're seeing that's being approved for the pay raises right now are still contingent upon the commission approving that. Having said that, the first thing that we're going to do tonight, we've got general budget fund transfer for the sheriff's department. Lisa's going to take care of that for us.
Two things that we're trying to accomplish. One, there was a change at the chief over the jail. There was a change, and because of payout, we need to fix that salary, increase that by $9,800, and then to be able to increase their overtime for the people who's been out, $55,000. But there is sufficient funds in their guards with not, having some turnover of $64,800. So it's a transfer with them.
Okay. Heard the request for transfer. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, the first department we'll be looking at is Circuit Court Judge and Mr. Taylor, or whoever's going to be covering that. Okay.
I can do it.
All right, that'll be fine, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I mean, you can do it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Under the Circuit Court Judge, we are looking at, my recommendation is $370,228. Just the continuation budget. That's my recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
You and Judge Taylor have been collaborating?
We have. We came by, we talked, and he feels good.
Okay.
I'm here to say that, but
Committee have any questions for the mayor?
Are they adding a deputy? Or no? Or is that just the raises? Because it's a
Just
jump.
a raises.
just the raises.
Just going to see if they were adding a position or not.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Piercy. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda here is general sessions. Wanda, Ms. Watkins, or who's going to?
And the judges.
Oh, and the judges, please come up.
I'll defer to Judge Bennett.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, did we say we were going to dispense with the caveat phrase in the motion? Did you cover that in your opening remarks? Should it have been added?
I'm just
Right.
assuming that now.
Okay, all right. I agree. We all agree to that? We'll just assume that.
Yeah, that was carte blanche.
For every motion
In the opening
tonight.
remarks.
If you said that,
Yeah.
forgive me, I missed it.
Well, welcome.
Welcome, Mayor.
Would you like to start, or would you like for me to?
Mayor.
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 Yeah, we'll let the mayor.
Mr. Chairman, my recommendation for general sessions is $2,305,714. They are asking for 3 risk assessment positions. If you'll look under account the 309 also. There's $35,000 estimate into the state indigent fund for electronic monitoring devices. Also requesting additional travel for judges and commissioners. and contracted services to pay for a substitute judge when they're away. Special appointed judge would come under that line item.
And it's kind of a dual thing. This, really, y'all have approved that, or it's going to commission tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, the three
those
risk
three,
assessment positions.
to go ahead and get them into this year, but those things happened at the same time, but it was also in his
Yeah,
recommendation.
so recommendation to go into the new
Right,
fiscal.
that's what we passed at our last meeting. so,
Correct.
okay. Okay, judges, or Wanda, if y'all like to go ahead and.
I'll be glad to answer any question any of the members of the committee may have regarding these positions or these increased expenditures regarding the contracted services or the indigency fund, either one. I will say that the indigency fund is a result of a change in the law that resulted in the state only covering half or 50% of the fund for those that are determined as indigent by the courts to provide the monitoring funds that we require them to wear both pre-trial and as part of probation should that become necessary. So that particular line item is a result of the change in the law.
What line item was that again? I'm sorry.
309.
Okay.
309, I got a copy from the engrossing clerk today, and it's already been engrossed. It's sitting on the governor's desk waiting for signature.
Well, I do have one question for you. Is, do you agree with the mayor's recommendation?
I do.
Okay, committee, do y'all have any further questions?
I'm gonna say that 35,000 is an estimate. I don't know if it's high or low.
And those are matching funds, is that
They're
correct?
matching.
50/50, whatever the matching would be.
So that kind of falls in line on what we spent in the past, is it? Or do we know
Well-
since it's changed?
Actually, we wouldn't know that because we haven't been responsible for that 50% up until this year. And the state indigency fund actually ran dry about 60 days ago, and they stopped funding those and sent notice down through their fiscal year. And so that's when I think that kind of precipitated that change within the legislature to start having the counties match that at a 50% rate because they ran out of money.
But still kept the program alive just by
Absolutely.
50% match. Kind of helped everybody.
Any other discussion? No, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Johnson?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Judge. Okay, the next on line is a drug court, and Mr. King. Mayor?
All right, Mr. Chairman, members, we're looking, my recommendation for the drug court is $1,566,068. This is also a continuation budget, except for the changing from the PT to the foot therapist,
Part-time, full-time.
full-time.
Part-time, full-time.
All right, reentry case manager.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And we've actually, when you look at this budget, we've actually cut in some of our budget. Last year's amended budget was right at 1.5 million, so we're going up 66,000. But adding another position for the reentry case management, as well as converting a part-time therapist to a full-time therapist, is about 93,000. So even adding basically two positions, we're still only going up 67,000 from our previous year's budget. So we took out some numbers that we were not using, some other line items that we could cut back. So it is really a needs budget.
Do you agree with the mayor's recommendation?
Yes, sir, I do.
What, on line 333, what's the change in your licenses? That went down.
The change in licenses, we no longer have joined a lot of the national organizations, so that's kind of saved us money. There just wasn't a need for us where we're not getting any really value for having those.
And then your line 399, other contracted services went to 0 from 20,000.
Correct, and that was going to be a software purchase that we were going to buy that was going to cost us money each month. We have asked the vendor for the last 2 years to get us that software, and they have yet to come through, so
So you just dropped it.
just drop it. We will continue using what OIT internally has created, and we'll get with that going forward.
And then your 499, the other materials and supplies went from 97 to 114.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there?
The reason for that is the increase in the number of participants that we're seeing each year, and this is drug screen costs. We spend anywhere between $70,000 to $80,000 a year in drug screens. So the bulk of those items come under that line item. Because we screen every participant at least twice a week, if not more. So we have about 200 participants. And those screens can range anywhere between $6 to $26, depending on what we average. Yes, ma'am.
There's also, yeah, it did go up, but there's part of that money has to do with your 2 grants.
Correct.
Yeah. For same purpose, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll make a motion to approve with the caveat if there's no more questions.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mayor, did you have?
No, sir.
Okay. Or is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Mr. King, you're on the next one here too, so.
Yes, sir. The next one is probation department, and I've actually have decreased the expenditures, including the increase with the revenues going up. Our last year's budget was 1.6 million. This year is 1.56, so we are making a reduction in our budget. And the majority of that is the elimination of operating internally from the county's perspective. A scram it is costing us money. It is cheaper for us to go to a different option, and that's really the savings related back to that point.
The contracts with private agency.
Yes, sir. And that was part of with the General Sessions Courts coming here, that matching avenue. So as you look, we had 100,000, 120,000 that we were spending out of that each year, and then now it's resulting in about 35 to 40,000 competitors. So that will be a better cost savings for us as a department.
Yes. We're just, as chairman, members, we're just showing that reduction we're getting out of that business. It's costing us, what, 160 plus dollars, 160,000 a year. And there's a company that's willing to buy the scramble bracelets that we have purchased, 53,000.
I believe so.
Yeah, but 54,000. They're willing to purchase our bracelets from us.
Okay, so of course, I assume you agree with the recommendation.
Yes, sir, I do.
Any other questions from the committee?
On your line 709, data processing goes, that went to 0 as well.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that was, I think that was a purchase that we made initially for, it was a copier as well as some other equipment. So after we purchased that, there was no longer.
Just not a recurring expense.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll make a motion to approve with the caveat.
Have a motion? Commissioner Johnson on the second. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank y'all very much.
Thanks for a good budget.
Yeah. Good job, Trey. We're gonna miss Trey.
We'll miss
Trey's, he's on vacation, but his last day was last Friday. Okay, so thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Made us all proud.
Thank you, Trey.
Okay, juvenile court. Judge Davenport, welcome. Mayor?
I think you'll see that we did a little bit of an increase this year. We were asking under the contract services. That's usually our increase every year is to have somebody to,
My recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is $788,290.
Judge, do you agree with the mayor's recommendation?
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
There's an additional $15,000 for a substitute judge.
That's what we've had to increase for, to add a little more hours for someone when we have recusals or absences, illness, deaths, so that we have somebody to come and help us out.
What's on item is that, Mayor?
But it's in the 399.
Is that your guy that paddles across the river?
That's my judge that paddles across the river.
Get to his truck and drives an hour
And
and a half.
then
to-
drives an hour and a half to come to work, one day a week.
Sounds like going to grandmother's house.
Yeah, we're lucky to have him.
Yeah, absolutely. He loves you.
All right.
What's the line 312, contracts with private agencies, to zero?
That was grant.
Oh, that's a pass-through grant, yeah.
SAM, HSA grant. It's passive.
Pass-through.
Budget that back in if we get the grant again.
I make a motion to approve with caveats.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion from the committee? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next will be the district attorney, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. Commissioners, good evening.
Mr. Chairman, my recommendation for the general's budget is $219,536. That's just a continuation budget.
Yeah. Don't believe there's been any change in the request.
Correct.
Mr. Jones, I assume you agree with the mayor's recommendation here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So only changes would be the payroll that we're doing the caveat.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other discussion from the committee? Commissioner Johnson, makes a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Stevens. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Keep that busy.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.
Hey, now we'll
Sorry we let you go so quickly. Sorry we didn't have your cookies.
Okay, next is the Office of Public Defender. Mr. Melton, is he's here, or who's going to represent him?
Yes, I will. Talking about public. My recommendation on Mr. Melton's budget is $198,487. It's a continuation budget as well, Mr. Chairman.
Y'all have a good one. We'll see you soon.
Motion to approve with caveats.
Okay, we have a motion. I hear a second.
Second.
Mr. Pierce. Are there any other questions from the committee? Motion and second. There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Youth Services, Ms. Bigby. Mayor?
It's on 21.
Yeah, that's right.
Mr. Chairman, recommendation on youth services is $1,565,047.
Wait a minute,
978.
wait a minute, that's wrong. I'm sorry,
On page 22.
probation.
It's top
It's
22.
I got them 53,910.
Tina thought she didn't hit the jackpot.
Yeah, right there. No, probation service.
It's right there.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, 978. Oh, wait. Does that feel better? You'd rather have that other money.
Yeah, well,
I think you would. Thought that was a windfall.
Well, since we've already cut your budget, do you agree with the mayor's recommendation here?
We'll cut you
I
real
do
quick.
agree.
A motion to approve.
Mr. Don?
Second.
Are there any other questions?
Did you say this was pretty much a continuation also?
It is a continuation.
I jumped on it, the percentage of increase is so small,
Yeah.
even with salaries, it's a good budget, so, thank you.
Yeah. We got a good student.
Okay. Any other questions? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next up is domestic violence. Welcome.
Good evening.
That recommendation is 278,046. And that is taking also members of part-time to cover the first half of the day while they are in court. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll ask, do you agree with the mayor's recommendation?
I do agree with the mayor's recommendation.
Yeah, they were getting caught short. They needed really somebody out there at the front desk because they'd be in court. And so this part-time person during the heaviest time of the docket, they'll have somebody there that can help direct and answer the phone, et cetera. So,
And we're only a three-person office, so in the new building, it really kind of put us at a disadvantage because the building is so big and we have to be other places.
here's why I get from point A to point B then.
Yes.
Committee, anybody have any other questions? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second? Okay, Don? Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Okay, next is the Correctional Work Center, Mr. Cole.
Mr. Chairman, my recommendation on the Correctional Work Center is $4,505,783. They requested 3 positions, but I didn't recommend them. They did recommend leasing 5 vehicles. I think I've referred to their vehicles on a couple of occasions. They have the oldest one in the fleet, a 1991 Crown Vic that's been passed down several times. They also have an old school bus and we're still transporting prisoners in that, aren't we, Mr. Director?
Yes, sir.
Which is kind of scary. How was that school bus?
Well, it used to have the feet cut out in the floorboard where you could run along by itself. It's old. I don't know, Mayor. Don't remember the date on it.
What are we getting to replace?
Well, we're looking at, our vans are in bad shape too. That's what we use the most of. So we're looking at replacing those 2 vans, and I think they're 12 passenger, and we're looking at about 15 passengers for each of those. Our sedans have been passed down through the sheriff's office to us. We're going to give those back to you, Sheriff, when we're finished. We're looking at replacing those. And then we have 2 small SUVs we'd like to we'd like to replace. In all, we've got 6 vehicles, and at any time, 3 of them are in the shop.
That line item, 330,
Yeah.
3241.
Yes, sir.
And so that line 330 is for 3 vehicles?
That's for 5 vehicles.
5 vehicles,
Yes, sir.
little 6,000 feet.
Yes, sir. And that will actually go down after this first year because that's all the equipment that goes with it, the lights and safety equipment.
Lock and key,
Yes, sir.
basically.
So also, Mr. Chairman, let me direct you to line item 709. There's $100,000 in there that we've been talking about, and I'd like to see at least passage of this contingent upon us getting the money from the governor. We have been talking about, Bill's got space, empty space out there to put in a classroom. And so mechatronics has really become big, and we've been working with Watlow and MTSU and some of the manufacturer owners and managers of the manufacturers here. And when we went to see the governor, was it last month? I guess it was.
Yes, sir.
We asked him to match this. What we would like to do is to put a mechatronics program, and Siemens is willing, they've been working on this program as well, to create the Siemens Level 1 curriculum for, to be one of the first. And the governor's really up on working inside the prisons and trying to trying to end that cycle of recidivism. So if we can put that Siemens Level 1 certification program into the workhouse and give these guys and girls an opportunity when they step out of his workhouse, that they can say, hey, okay, I've changed my life around, I've got this certification. They can get a house, they can buy a car, they can provide their own transportation going to work. But it would only be contingent upon the governor being able to fund the other half of that.
So we be able to recoup part of this 105?
I'm sorry?
We be able to recoup part of this 105, 881, or does the governor be,
Well,
did that take care of all of it?
we asked, no. It's going to take at least $100,000 for the teacher and curriculum, as it is. You know, MTSU just received back last June. At this time, they received a $278 million Siemens grant to start teaching the Level 3 program at MTSU. So we're waiting to try to get a building done there, but we want to take this inside our correctional program here. And this would, the 100,000 would stay that or revert back in the event that the governor doesn't come across with his commitment. It's another 100,000, so it's going to take, estimate about 200,000 to run the program, right?
Yes, sir.
Somebody to buy the initial equipment, and then on a recurring basis, you're going to have to pay for the professor or teacher, I guess, from Motlow to come in and teach. Well, this gentleman's name is Motlow. Oh, my goodness. But we've been working through Dr. Torrance, you know, and his guy from Tullahoma. He's kind of the guru on mechatronics.
And we worked with the chamber, if you'll remember that Second Chance program that we did last year. And if you happen to read the D&J, that Scott did an article on it.
It's in today's paper.
Just, within the past couple of days. And the particular inmate that's speaking in that article went through that Second Chance. And he's working in our work release program now, and he's been on it for about 2 years. And he's going to walk out of jail with probably close to $80,000 saved up. And he's learned that basic. He's got his certification. He's gone on to work at BVA Systems. He's gained other certifications since he's been there. And this has given him an opportunity that he would have never gotten. Well, I've known him for 20 years in and out of the system, and he's never been given this opportunity. So, that's the kind of people we want to target.
How many people do we Do you know about offhand how many we have in the work release program?
50, right at 50. It's about 20% of our population. We could actually, and we just signed on to do a pilot program that wants to start with five more within the next couple of weeks, and they're going to come in and do 3 days of training. So, I mean, it's growing. We have to kind of pull back on the reins a little bit, or it'll get away from us. So, it could actually grow a lot faster than what we're.
Schwan Cosmetics has really stepped up and taken, you've got 3 or 4 women working out there.
And we have at least 3 to 4 women working there, and then Schwan has brought some of their products into the facility, and we're doing work within the facility also, where the inmates are actually making money in a classroom, putting together.
Schwan says they're better employees than what they're hiring off the street.
Definitely. Well, and to reinforce that, Mayor, the company that we're working with this new pilot program have been filling their employee void with temp employees. And one thing that we can guarantee you is that our temp employees are going to be sober, they're going to be on time, they're going to work as long as you'll let them, because they're able to make money and
Don't have anything else to do, right?
well, besides class. I mean, so we want them working or in class at least 8 hours a day.
If they show up on time, I may give you a call.
Okay.
But now this is also for like if they come into your facility and they already have a job.
Yes, sir.
And so they can, by doing that, they can keep their family going, any child support payments possibly, or so.
Well, what we like to do typically is pay all the fines, fees, court costs, child support. And with the guy that I was telling you has saved $60,000, will probably have 80 by the time he leaves, has already put down through his wife a down payment on a new home. So they're sending money back to their family, which is something we encourage, and we have a finance class that they're all required to go through anyway. So yes, to answer your question, we want to make sure that money is pushed out to the family, because ultimately that's who's paying for their incarceration. I know we are as a society, but I don't put money on their commissary for honey buns. The family does. So if they can buy their own honey buns and send money home to take care of the children at home, then why wouldn't we try to do what we can to make them better?
On that same line item, the 709 data processing, you had 110,000 in there amended for this year. So what did that money go for this year?
Data
processing equipment.
I may have to refer to Diane. That was Stan. Oh, that was our security system. If you'll remember, we had to update our security system. So that's how we ended up getting the new monitors, cameras, touchscreens, the whole new system.
Mr. Coe,
Sir?
do you agree with the mayor's recommendation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you agree with cutting the 3, apparently it was guards. If I'm looking at the line item, you requested 3 guards.
Well, that was part of his needs and wants budget, and he brought both, and they've done an excellent job of scrutinizing the budget. And the 3 were the part of the ones.
And we've been really good with working with the mayor to, with our wants and needs. And we do understand that. And we had a meeting actually this week about finding some ways to reschedule some guys to take those positions that we were requesting and do a little bit of the work that we were wanting them to do. So we'll get the work done regardless, one way or another. But that was a wish. We were asked to come up with a wish and a need, and that was one of our wishes. So I think our team has done a fantastic job working on the budget throughout the past couple of years. We've not been in front of you for one budget amendment, if you'll notice, in over 2 years. So we do a good job making sure we're spending every dime the way it should.
Mr. Allen, you hit.
On line 340, your medical and dental, you're able to scale that back from 3,500 to 2,500. Nobody's medical bills are going down, so just curious how we're
Let me
able to do
take
that.
a look.
It's line 340.
Yeah, I've never had good teeth.
Yeah, so far you've only.
Well, one thing that we pull out of that is, that's what our drug and nicotine tests come out of, and our x-rays. Now, when it says medical and dental services, that's for the contraband x-rays. It's not necessarily our medical.
Not providing care, okay.
Exactly. So what we are able to do is that the sheriff's office has an x-ray machine now, so occasionally we will take a group of those guys that are coming in from work over to the sheriff's office and run through that x-ray machine, and it keeps us from having to call out that extra service, so we were able to scale that one back.
And then on the in-service line, line 196, you asked for 2,300, but there was about an $8,000 increase that the mayor wasn't recommending. What was it specifically you had in mind for that?
Dogs.
We had a contraband control dog that we were looking at. And of course, the mayor and I talked about it, and we both agreed that it would almost be harder to find that handler than what it would be to be worth it right now. So I think we can put that on.
We'll continue to look at that next year.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really, really good.
They are.
The sheriff's got some, and you can cross-train them for drugs and for cell phones. Cell phones is the biggest thing being smuggled into state prisons and local prisons.
And then the last question that I had is, and I don't know if we're going to cover this somewhere else, but I'm always curious about facilities like yours and capital improvements. Do you have any long-term capital improvements that need to be happening at your facility? And if so, are we planning for them, or what are those needs?
Not that I'm aware of right now. The
Roof's in good shape, heating in there's in good shape, chillers are in good shape, everything?
we have a little bit of problem with the boilers right now, but I don't think it's anything that we're going to have to look at right away. Chillers we've had to do some work on within the past year, but we've managed it, in a way that it's within the budget. So
I just know it's been helpful with the schools to have like a 5-year capital improvement project where you kind of know what's coming on the horizon, and it lets us plan across the board. So I'm going to ask this same question of the jail and of juvenile, of everybody, to say what's on the horizon, what's needed, and are we planning for it? So
honestly, I mean, I can probably start one. I don't think we are looking at any major needs within the next, I know, at least 3 years. But I think that is a good idea across the board.
Any committee, any other questions? Not all. Entertain a motion.
motion. Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just part of that motion, that $100,000, I want to make sure that it's just contingent upon.
Is that part of your motion?
It was,
And
absolutely.
second? Okay. So this is contingent upon our governor's
Yeah,
match.
governor's match.
All right. Are there any other questions or discussion? There being none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
When will we know about the governor's match? When will we know? Anybody's guess?
Yeah, he's signing bills right now, and he'll probably like us take, after July 1, take a vacation, come back, start getting it at the end of July. So I'd say probably August.
By the way, I'm planning on that too.
Everybody planning on 1 July. So enjoy.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, my recommendation on juvenile services is $2,848,045. She's requesting a part-time chaplain. recommending one leased vehicle. Under line item 719, she's requesting a new copier. And on 790, line item 790, looking for, to replace her washer and dryers with larger capacities. And they have a tendency to wear those things out, right?
Yes, sir.
That's my recommendation.
So my only question is, how did your budget decrease?
I had one, it was similar to the situation with Workhouse. We did a digital security system upgrade in the last year's budget, so that 160 isn't in this one, and we had a grant position that moved over to the Board of Education.
Okay.
Steve, do you agree with the mayor's recommendation?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
That's $13,000 reduction in your budget. That's pretty good. Most of it approved.
Mr. Johnson,
Second.
Ms. Allen. Got a motion and a second, or is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now, let me ask my capital improvement question. So do you have any capital improvements?
No, I would say that,
Washer and dryer.
right, more than likely, as goes the Correctional Work Center, so goes JDC, because they were built at the same time.
Right.
More than likely, the roof, which we're still leaking, it would be, if I had to say something, it would be the roof.
So is Mr. Mackin the one that monitors that, or who?
That is
oversees
correct.
it? So he knows you have a leaky roof?
Yes.
Describe the severity of the situation, I guess is what I'm listening
Yeah,
for.
how much water's coming in?
They have fixed the majority of those leaks. Occasionally, when we have a monsoon, we'll have to get a bucket out and still catch some. But the main problem is the seams of the metal and the way the roof, there's the angles and the seams are the main problem, and our skylights. So they've looked at doing a coating over the whole roof. They've looked at coating just portions of it, and they almost have it under control, but we still have a few problem spots that we're working on.
So you'll keep in mind that if there's a capital improvement plan that you'll put one together for us, there's things that you foresee in the next 5 years that we need to be working on.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next is the County Fire and Rescue, and Chief Farley. Here, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My recommendation for the Rutherford Fire and Rescue is $5,686,133. We're asking for one captain transfer from ambulance to sort. Funding, assuming acquiring Fosterville, which we took possession May 1st. So that transition has already occurred. So we took that over, working through the board. It took several months of negotiating with the board, and they said it's probably the best decision to go ahead and give up Fosterville. So Larry's been out there, Chief Farley's already been out there making a lot of changes. We've got 2 people, 24-hour basis.
No, I've got 2 people, 8 hours a day.
8 hours a day, mainly during the daytime, because that was a period of time when we had nobody responding to fires in the Fosterville community.
Don't you have enough resolution for them tomorrow on it?
Yeah, tomorrow, and we'll be presenting, I guess, from public safety. There's a resolution of accepting that. I think we were told by legal we need to go through that formally to accept it.
That's what we've done in the past.
Yeah, okay.
did we acquire any trucks, property?
They were already ours, and the building was already ours.
The building was ours, the property was ours. We did acquire 2 brush trucks, a mule with a little Kawasaki mule type vehicle with a wildland pack on the back with a water tank to get into some tight places in the wildlands or woods, and then a 4-wheeler, which is for wildland fires. And I believe it was it. Everything else the county owned.
Is this stuff we had to purchase from them?
No, they signed, Craig Lynch, the chairman, signed all the titles over to me, over to the county.
Are there any volunteers left out there at all?
Yes, we actually gained, I
Since
got
this.
14.
They were down to, most of them had left and gone to Christiana.
Yeah, about 3.
And since the acquisition of May 1st, just in 2 weeks, we've
Had a meeting, had 14 of them show up, and they're willing to spend the night down there when they're available and cover calls, so it's been going well. One of the things I would like to bring up in my budget, if you look at line item 790, that is $760,000, where I told the public safety we'd have to replace our air packs countywide because they're out of date, obsolete. Now, we do have a grant to FEMA. If we get that grant, then the majority of that will come off, I think, what, 5 or 10%? So we'll save that money. And then also on line item,
599.
well, 599, that covers equipment for SORT to maintenance the hydraulic tools, extrication tools, and the hazmat stuff. And then on vehicle maintenance,
Let me say something real quick about that SORT. Chief already had a SORT truck. If you recall, for those on public safety, the SORT truck that the ambulance had was always under repair. They had requested in their budget for EMS a new SORT truck of $500,000. And so Chief Farley, we just moved it over to SORT. And so we didn't have, that saved us $500,000 by taking it over there. And everybody's gonna be able to use it.
and they're thoroughly enjoying it too, because they never had nothing that nice in a long time. But also on vehicle maintenance, we've increased it from 100,000 to 139,000. The reason for that is that we've been buying so many brand new fire apparatus throughout the county, volunteers too, that I want to maintenance all those. I want to make sure that they're getting preventative maintenance. That'll take some of the burden off the volunteer departments also. We already maintenance, there'd actually be 29 fire apparatus that we're maintaining, plus a few regular vehicles. But to make sure that all these apparatus are preventive maintenance, oil change, fuels, filters, stuff like that. And if they have a major expense, we'll cover that too. So basically we're spending millions of dollars on these fire apparatus, and I just want to make sure they're being maintained. So that's the increase on that. Plus it takes a little bit of the burden off the volunteers.
And under item 399, other contracted services, we have 5 remaining volunteer fire departments. You'll see that number has dropped from
11 to 5 from where we started.
yeah, but it's down from actual 270 down to 250. My recommendation and the department request.
That's the money that we give
Volunteers,
to
that's
each
correct, yes, sir.
volunteer.
Yeah, each department gets $50,000.
Line item 718,
Yes, sir.
motor vehicles, motor vehicles, $1,170,000.
That's where we've been replacing the CTAS did a apparatus replacement plan. When we started this, the oldest trucks we have are 28 years old. And so we've been slowly buying like 2 or 3 a year. So we've just about, well, we will this year probably get rid of all the 1990 models that are 28 years old. And so we're just gradually starting into the 2000s. And we're about to get to a point where we can just buy one a year and keep up. But we had to play catch up. We bought 22 trucks that were all the same age and same deterioration.
We talked about this once before. Do you have a plan in effect how you're going to work this out on a particular system, how you gonna trade them out.
Yeah.
You better plan in
Yeah,
effect.
CTAS did that study determining the miles and the condition of which ones are being replaced, and we're just going right down the line.
A replacement plan for
Yes, sir.
stumbling for there, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How many did you say was in this plan this year?
Probably 3.
Okay.
It depends on when we spec them out and what the cost is.
Do we still provide life insurance for the volunteer firefighters? Wasn't that something we added?
No, ma'am. Each volunteer fire department spends insurance. They have liability on their buildings, their vehicles, which is the greatest cost they have. Plus, they all provide workman's compensation for all the volunteers in case they get hurt on the job.
But you're not
The
a yes.
ones under our umbrella are covered under life.
Yes, the ones on our volunteers.
Just the volunteers that are not, those 5 that are not part of us are not given that same, they're given their money to do what they want to with, but the ones that, the other 6 that are under the county's umbrella have the life insurance.
Okay, I guess
Volunteers to the county's
departments.
Yeah, we have paid and volunteer firefighters. So those volunteers also have a workman's comp policy.
Okay.
And we're covered on the OJI.
I just had it in my head that that was something that I remembered we had voted in was life insurance for volunteer firefighters, but I couldn't remember who all it impacted. So, but it's the ones that are the volunteer for the county buildings, for the county fire department.
Yes, ma'am.
On line 701, you had budgeted for this year 182,000. You've only spent 56, and then you're asking for 67. What was it you were planning on this year that
Okay,
you thought you'd have expenses for?
what that is, that's turnout gear, our bunker pants and coat and stuff. And so when we did this budget, we hadn't started purchasing that yet. And we just, matter of fact, we just bid that out, so we're gonna start spending the majority of that money.
So you
The
think
180,000 is part of a grant too, that we got.
Yeah, we got a grant to outfit our volunteer firefighters.
So you think you'll have that spent out by the end of the year?
Yes.
Or the fiscal year?
Turnout gear they expire just like your
They got a 10-year,
bottles.
they got a 10-year life on them.
That's coming before the purchasing committee here shortly, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Farley, do you agree with the mayor's recommendation?
Yes, sir, he's been more than fair.
Any other questions from the committee?
Will the vehicles be bought out of the development tax fund, or will they be bought out of operating fund?
I believe that there will be sufficient amount out of, I mean, I look at that and I look at in total. I believe there will be enough sales tax to cover it all.
Motion to approve.
Second. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Gooch. Is there any other discussion?
Commissioner
Alan?
Allen, I'm sorry. You asked for some future improvements.
Yes.
When we built the Barfield Station in 2012, they require us to put down pervious concrete. And what that is that when it rains or whatever, it allows the water to drain down in the concrete. Well, when they bid that out, the guy come in and poured it like regular concrete. And what you're supposed to do when you pour that, you're supposed to pour it and then pack it with a machine. I'm sure Mr. Dodd's familiar with that. They didn't do that.
Okay.
And basically, it's just deteriorating and falling apart and turning into a gravel parking lot. Of course, the way those trucks are probably 50,000 pounds coming in there, and it just looks terrible.
Big chunks of gravel.
So that's something we didn't include this year, but that's something that down the road we need to get that fixed.
Where in the budget, Lisa, will those kinds of things live? Will we see them inside their department budgets? Will we see them separately in some sort of capital improvement budget?
Yes.
Where will they
It's,
live?
depending on the amount, I mean, some of them handle it in their budget.
Okay.
And sometimes it's wrapped up in Ben Makin's budget.
Okay.
And what we could possibly do is do that 2 years, because it's a big parking lot. Dig up it'd have to be dug up and re-poured. We can dig up the front 1 year, and then the next budget year do the back.
Gotcha.
Because the front is the worst part of it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, Chief.
Next is Ms. Tanya Bell. Welcome, Bill and Combs. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My recommendation on building codes is $1,139,495. This is a continuation budget except for maintenance agreements on the new software, so that's where you'll see your spike. Correct, Tanya?
And yes, and the 2 part-time employees that we hired this year for electrical permits, however,
Which,
the revenue,
and we did those earlier, so this will continue on for those two employees.
Hey, do you agree with the
I do.
mayor's recommendation?
Your office produces enough revenue to cover its expenses,
we do,
correct?
yes, we do.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Dodd, second. Mr. Pearson. Are there any other questions?
Are you getting any vehicles?
We are not. We've purchased vehicles for the last 3 budget years, we had 2, so we're pretty caught up.
Okay. Any other discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Okay, I've got a feeling we'll slow down on this one a little bit. Sheriff?
Yeah, here goes the beast.
No, I approve of what the mayor's recommendation is, so
You just want us to go ahead and vote?
Thanks,
instead of
Trevor.
talking about it?
No explanation.
Just be glad you weren't on last night's agenda.
We watched it, yeah.
it's painful enough.
We were hurting. All right, Mayor. Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm talking myself. My recommendation on the sheriff's budget, we worked long and hard with the sheriff and Preble and all parties concerned on this budget because it is so large, but I think he's brought a good, clean budget to us, and I feel very good with my recommendation at $27,755,518. Requesting 5 new patrol. He was requesting 5, I'm recommending 3, and we're recommending 28 leased vehicles. Any questions?
We'll start off, I'll repeat that question. Do you all agree with the mayor's recommendation?
We do. And I'm going to, may I jump in?
Please.
I'm going to jump on the personnel you requested. And at the workhouse, the gentleman was quick to say it was a wish. So I'm going to ask you, I've seen y'all hurt for personnel, you're asking for more, you were denied at this point. Tell me about your comfort level with that.
My comfort level is fine. Ours was not a wish. Ours is a need. Our need in patrol, law enforcement, and of course we'll talk about jail in just a minute. However, in talking with the mayor, I understand the complexity and the full scope of our budget and what we're asking for. And I know we're not going to talk about it tonight, but very interested in doing something for our existing people now. And if we're able to do something there, then we will make do with what the mayor is recommending, which we will agree to, so we can do something for our employees, which we'll talk about at a later date.
It's an 8% overall increase from last year, which in your complicated environment, that's pretty small, and that's with the raises.
Yes, that's correct.
So I just, yours is just so critical. Public safety, your guards, your people are taxed. I just want to be careful with cutting out those.
Well, I understand.
Perhaps another department doesn't get theirs, but you might.
Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and say we don't need them, because we do need them.
Were they deputies? I heard, is that what you said? Deputies?
The 3 patrol.
Patrol deputies was 5. And we've got studies that, we can prove the need from the basis of not our figures, the figures that are approved nationwide. on how do you appropriate patrol positions. And we've got studies where we could prove in 30. So it, like I said, it's not a desire, it's a need. However, here again, in talking with the mayor, I understand the full budget and what we get to. And if it's a matter of us getting by for another year with a slight increase in our patrol positions to be able to do something for our existing employees, then we're more than willing to do that.
As part of the discussion is we wanted to try, that's why we were trying to raise the table for all of them to where we don't send them to get post-certified and then somebody comes in after we get them trained and they hire them away. We want to take care of the ones we got. So we want to make a little sacrifice. I asked the sheriff to do that, and from 5 to 3, we gave up 2. And of course, we're going after the lease vehicles. I feel like it's a very good program. And feel good about it.
Well, being a public safety rep, and Chairman Reed's here also, he can speak to this, but I think it is critical that we get the raises to these deputies and these personnel. I mean, he's basically got people that are running patrol that are working 2 jobs and maybe more, and they're coming in tired when they come to work from another job because they can't afford a family and a house, feed them, and insurance on the salaries that we're starting a lot of these people out on. And I think what the mayor's done, and like I said when we started this, I'm in favor of these increases, and especially in our public safety sectors. EMS is in the same situation. We're bleeding personnel, just as Commissioner Dodge pointed out there, and we can't afford to do that. It costs us money to lose these people, plus we need to pay a living wage. Of course, that's my personal opinion, but that's also the opinion of our Public Safety Committee. Like I said, Chairman Reed's here if he'd like to speak on this too. But we had a unanimous vote out of the committee to support the pay increases for the public safety sector. So,
Did you recommend the 5 positions?
we did not. We weren't complete on when we looked at his budget. It hadn't been completed at that time, so we didn't go step by step through it. And we got the opportunity to do here.
So with salary and training and everything, 2 deputies equate to how much in the budget? Like
190,000.
I was thinking 150, I thought it was somewhere in the range.
Not trained, I'm sorry,
Not
that's
trained,
salary.
that's salaries.
Yeah.
Not your training, that's not
That
including training.
figures 16 weeks and 10 weeks in the academy at training. So
There's
half the
26
year.
weeks that we train before they're ever allowed to be in a car by themselves.
I was trying to figure out the overall impact of those 2, what that number means to this budget.
And my thinking there in our negotiations was that I can take that amount and shift it over to help pay for those. I would prefer to have them to where they don't have to work 2 jobs and come in groggy from working 2 different jobs, where if we hire these other 2, they may have to be in the same boat and work 2 jobs. So I'd rather take some of that money and shift over to help pay and lift the table for the ones that are currently there.
And I wholeheartedly
That's
agree
up to
with
the
that. And the mayor, of course, we've talked at length about that. If we don't do something for our existing employees, and there's not a man or woman that we've got that would not be willing to step up and do what they need to do, if we get, say, 3 of the 5 to step up and take that slack up, so we can do something for our wages and salaries for our existing people.
I've talked to a lot of people who report up through your ranks, and I am 100% in favor of giving them what they need. I don't want to shortchange you 2 positions. I don't want to nitpick 2 positions out of knowing how big your need is. Because one of the complaints that I've heard is about you having to pull SRO officers out of schools to help cover patrol.
We do on occasion.
You know, that's significant. You know.
We don't pull as we use them afterwards, and then, of course, in the summer months, we will use them, and we've got one requirement now. Of course, it's for their good too, that they will come and work 2 weeks in patrol. What that does is keeps them abreast of current procedures, anything that's come along that they may not be accustomed to because they don't answer calls outside of the school. I don't pull them to go do patrol.
Okay.
Because if I do that, then I'm leaving the school uncovered.
Right.
So I do not do that. But if this committee sees wisdom to give us, I'll take them. Because I do need them. It's not a matter of that I don't need them. It's not a wish list.
Right, and Mayor, you hit the nail on the head, and that's something that I've talked about before that I want to make sure that we fold into this salary increase. And that is some kind of obligation on the part of the employees to stay once we've trained them. There needs to be some commitment, if we're going to make a commitment to them, to invest in them and train them, there needs to be a reciprocal commitment on their behalf to stay. And I want to make sure that anything we do regarding the salaries is tied to that.
There's been discussions that the mayor and I have had along that line as far as, of course, it's the state training that we give them. Of course, that's training that we have to pay for out of our budget. That some type of contract that we would work out with everybody.
We had one years ago in the ambulance department, and we could redo that for both. Anytime we expend $4,000 or $5,000 on training for EMS or sheriff through post certification, that we just say, okay, then if you decide to leave after 6 months, then you're going to have to reimburse part of that, from your first paycheck, where you go light.
And I don't know that you need to limit it to public safety. I mean, if we're investing in any of our folks anywhere,
correct.
I think it needs to be countywide.
Sure. I mean, I don't know that we should be the ones biting the bullet on that.
Right.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, on the lease situation, 425,000.
Yes, sir.
How many vehicles you looking at? 20?
28.
28, okay.
If we bought 20 vehicles, it would be a 1.2 million.
Yeah.
We could lease 28 for 425,000.
Okay, that- Of course, that's, looking at line item 718, 778, so that's $300-something reduction.
Yes, sir. It is.
And you buy the vehicles off of the state contract.
We do.
And they're what, 28?
We're buying them right now for 31.
Well, 31 is what it costs us. A fully equipped police cruiser, by the time we get it on the street, we're hitting $50,000, $51,000, and that's including your light bar, your siren, and all that goes with it, striping. The difference on this would be is when the lease vehicle is dropped in our lot, the only thing we have to put on is our computer. Everything else is already on the car, and it's ready to go.
Screen and
everything.
Okay, so that's not chump change when you're talking about
No, sir,
$300,000.
it's significant. Of course, I mean, it's pushed out over 4 years. At the end of 4 years, we have an option. We can buy the car for $400, is it?
It depends on
Or
the
it depends on
depreciated
the
value.
shaking car. And then, or if they sell the car, then it comes back into the general fund. So that's a little bit different from what leasing has been in the past.
Well, I know in the past.
And no mileage.
And no mileage, that's right.
That's right. That's what's
Yeah,
huge for them.
That's
is
huge
no
for
mileage.
us.
I know in the past, the budget committee's allocated $1.5 million just to buy vehicles in the budget.
Yes.
I think that's a good.
So it's a huge advantage for us, and it's not something that we're the trial, we're gonna, this is Chicago does it, Hamilton County, so it's been tried, it's been proven.
How many years is this lease agreement for?
4
The
years.
lease is 4, and the Malibus would be 5.
5 years on the Malibu, which would be a detective vehicle or administrative, something of that nature, so it's 5 years on that one.
When you originally put in the 525, I guess, to buy new vehicles, how many would have that have been?
We bought them straight out. Our budget request would be $1.2 million.
That 525 that requested is what they thought the lease would be.
Yes, sir,
Okay,
I'm sorry, I was trying to think 525.
So if you were to buy 28, you said it would be?
1.2 million.
Well, 20 was 1.2
Yeah,
million.
20.
So we're actually getting 8 more vehicles in this for 425, first year cost.
Since we've had so much discussion on the rentals, just to give you an idea, Lisa has got a worksheet. Have you got that with you? If not, I'll pass this one down. But
Go ahead and pass yours down. That's just something that they had given us to work off
we
of.
may need some. I just wanted this committee to be aware
Yeah, that's
of
it.
what she's been working off of.
Yeah, this document's what we worked off of to put the estimates in the budgets. So, yeah.
That's what we saw in property.
Does that look very
That was
similar?
convincing, yeah, it was pretty convincing.
So small.
Yes,
area.
yeah.
We can make some more copies.
Want me to make, is everybody
I'll
involved?
put it in your box. I'll put, making sure everyone has one.
Just-
But I got a new one today, and I mean, she sent me something today, and I haven't opened it up, so I knew she was going to try to rework some of the numbers. But that's what we used.
What is line 350 with internet connectivity?
We're changing that. I've had a hard time tracking what we spend on the internet. I sign a lot of invoices. I can't, I see them every day, this internet. We have a line item that I wasn't aware of, and I'm just putting that into that line item from our communication budget.
It's pulling from other line items and
One to
bringing it
another.
into one
So it's
line
not
item.
something new?
Yes, sir. It's for tracking purposes, so we get a handle on it.
What's line 337? It went from 0 to 45,000?
I'm
I
sorry.
had a hard time, we had repair and maintenance of equipment. Well, I have equipment that is maintenance equipment, kitchen equipment, data processing equipment, or office equipment.
Okay.
I split that for office equipment. And that way I can keep up with the equipment costs better, plus the office repairs better.
And
or
then
office equipment.
on line 708, your communications equipment, you typically had 200 and almost $10,000 in that. You asked for 280, and we've only got 100,000 in
Well,
there.
because some of that's going to internet
Internet
connectivity,
connectivity.
and then we're putting all the radios now in the capital project.
So what will be paid out of that 100,000 that's in there?
Maintenance and repair on our equipment that we already have, like the headsets that communication uses, are sensitive and they're expensive. So anything, say we damage a radio battery, we need to buy extra batteries to have for the radios that we already have. So that would just go towards that. Say they tear a mic up.
The mic up or something.
Or the radio in the car, we can get it repaired.
And then the line just below that, the 709 data processing equipment went from 104 to 426.
As usual.
Here it is. You can maybe-
Here. I've got a list, but it's the 5 servers, okay? We're replacing, they're 8 years old, it's 100,000. 2 server switches, which connect all of our servers together to make them work, 30,000. Supporting equipment for new server room, that's power upgrades, putting in electrical boxes to support it, 21,000. Cooling the server room with extra air conditioners is 10. The VMware server license that helps them connect to each other and make them understand what's going on, that's 22. 16 PC replacements and warrants, because we currently can't support Windows 10, and that has to be with JMS and RMS, that's 16,000. And what we got cut last year, because we said we could get it this year, 60,000 laptops or 60 laptops for SRO, so they can be part of our RMS, JMS system, and that's 218,000.
If I can add part of this, I think I've talked with several of you where we have a server room that during the rain, it likes to bubble up through the floor and flood. So we're having to move our server room because of that, so we can concrete where this is coming up. So that's part of that, is for the movement of our server room.
Had to put a sump pump in there.
We had to put a sump pump. Every time it rains, we have to put a sump pump in, and then I've got to assign somebody there to watch, to keep the water from coming up in the
That
server
kind of
room.
segues into, we've met with Siemens.
Yes.
Siemens came and talking about long-term. The building's got issues. It's old, and it's got a lot of issues. So Siemens is gonna go out, and any other company that wants to come and try to help us identify what those energy savings costs will be, replacing of pipes. He's got rusted pipes underneath the elevator, I believe.
Yes, sir.
You had one pipe that One outside and one even capped off, right?
It's not capped. We've had valves where they're deteriorating in our water piping system for the high-rise jail. We've got a generator that powers the entire building detention. If it goes out, that's what keeps the power in the detention part. That I think their comment was they'd like to take pictures of it and put it in the museum. They didn't even know there's anything like that still operating. I mean, I'm serious. It's kind of like they all sit and look at this thing like, we didn't know these things were still here. So we've got some issues that we are addressing. The mayor's helped us on Siemens is getting them to come in and take a look at our physical plant. One other thing that I'll go ahead and address now as far as capital on our building, we are already on the list for CTAS for them to come in and do a building analysis on our detention facility to make recommendations. Can it be added to? Do we need a new? What do we need? So we're trying to get experts, and so we're already on the list for them to come in and do that study for us.
Are there any kind of energy efficiency things?
That's Siemens. That's what Siemens is all about.
Okay.
And they will come in and they've looked at our plant and our facility. Of course, there's a lot more in-depth studies that they'll do. And I understand the program is that the cost of whatever they recommend will be offset and then through the energy savings, and then that's what pays for the change out.
Well, and I know like through the schools, we have like a zero interest program and different things like that that we can participate in.
Lights and things like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things, of course, we're at a stage right now where our laundry is just about on its last gasp. And they have looked at things that, as far as types of machines where they've got water extraction and things that we don't have right now. So there's a lot of good suggestions since we're going to be in that.
We talked about the day that we went on the tour, because
Yes.
you're revamping your laundry room as well. And
We'll
so-
have to because of the piping system for these machines.
Right. So have you already made a decision what equipment you're going to put in there if you're going to try to do something more
Given
efficient?
the mayor,
We've
it's on
given the
jail
mayor
budget.
some of jail, yeah, we have given some on that, and then, of course, we're very interested in what Siemens has to say too, because if there's a better way than what we've seen, then we want to know what it is.
That's gonna be addressed in your jail budget, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Which we'll be looking at here shortly.
We gotta go, if we go by the agenda, we gotta go
We've
by
got to go, we've got.
a couple of other small ones.
Small budgets we can get out of the way.
Okay. I've got one question, of course. On your leased vehicles, $425 per 1 year,
Yes.
Yes, sir.
and the lease is for how many years?
4 years.
4 years. And you quoted a number of what it would cost to buy the vehicles,
One, for 20 Durangos, it would be 1.2.
1.2.
But you said the cost is less in subsequent years. This is more because it's an outfitting year, is that
Well,
right?
we're only gonna pay for 7 to 8 months of that, so you might see it go up.
Okay.
There's a little buffer in there in case we wreck a
case we
leased
wreck
vehicle,
them or
we have to
something
pay
like
that
that.
off. 50,000.
Which has been known to happen, so.
So the 4 years, you're looking at what?
I'd say,
Well, also in
Is
that budget, it's a full year payment.
Payments, correct.
It's a full year. It's that having to pay the upfront cost plus a full year of payments, though we will not make a full year payment, but we're budgeting it.
That's what the 425 is.
Yeah.
The sheriff, if you're
so
ordering
after
today,
that, probably looking at $500,000
tell them if you
for
ordered
the other,
July 1, what would you get?
4
Well,
years of
yeah,
5
you
years.
talk about if we're buying one, is if we order July 1, if we
Buy a vehicle, we'll be lucky to see that thing on the road by December, January.
This is 28 versus 20 also.
That's correct. And one of the other problems that we run into is on outfitting these vehicles. Where we go, then it's the only place we can go, but the other problem we've got is they do Metro, and so they put them in THP, so they bring in 200, 300 cars, and here we come with our 10 or 15. You know where we are on the list. So we're competing with that also, whereas with the leasing, we would not be competing with that.
They come in already equipped, it's turnkey.
Are you pulling 28 vehicles out of your fleet?
I've signed 24, is going off our lot already. I've already signed titles to get them off of there. So we got 24 already going on, there'll be some more coming off, yes, sir.
Where did they go?
Assets, Rutherford County assets.
Are they stolen, Mike?
Well, so some
Some
of
are
them
shot,
can't be
I
sold.
think.
They're junk. They're junk. Pure junk. Sir?
Are they wrecked?
No, sir, they're just
Don't
worn out.
run.
They're worn out. They don't run. The engines are gone, blown, or whatever.
You may see some driving around with rubber stoppers on the trunks. And
Yeah, I mean, I took exception to Bill Cope saying that what we gave him, I thought they were good vehicles when he got them, but I mean, we'd only run them 6-7 years. But that's what they are. We have sold some in the past. We get $300, $400, $500, $600. The problem that we run into, we got a call last year. One of our vehicles that we had sold 2 years ago was on Monteagle Mountain. Somebody just pulled off, left it. They had never titled it. Of course, we had luckily billed a seller that we had sold it, so, but they called us to come and get our vehicle. So we run into that when we sell them. They're not the best condition.
Okay,
I was going to ask our finance director about our revenues. So are we above where we projected we would be this year with our collections?
Yeah, I'll be coming in June with revenue changes, our estimates for the current year.
So that you believe that the revenue that we have from that's enough to cover the increase that's in this budget?
Well, all right. Is there enough revenue to cover this? If you remember when we first started, I showed you what our budgeted fund balance is. Changing the revenue estimates for the current year changed that number, which gives you more money at the end. We will, as presented, we are meeting our policy now with a, what is it, 16% fund balance. So I expect that to be better. So if that's what you're asking, increasing our estimates for the current year does have an impact on the end of that. But I've estimated revenues for next year based on what I think it will be conservatively.
Well, basically what you're saying, Lisa, and I'm not a genius on the math, but anticipated revenue, and that's going back with our ending fund balance, the balance, a healthy balance of 16%. We should be actuarially sound, and then
We should be better than what I've presented.
yes. So that's it in a nutshell, the way I understand it, in my finite mind.
That's county general only.
That's county general only, but I guess I also say, you see how much we are dipping into fund balance by 12, 13 million.
12.5.
Yeah. Which, we're not going to spend everything because we don't. We budget every position for every day being full. So generally, we have savings. So sometimes we say, we use that for just like what we did tonight. In the sheriff's budget, we use it to move it to overtime for those vacancies to help cover that side. But we typically do not spend every dime. And the revenue is my best estimate without being crazy. And I always hope that the next year, well, that's why I look at the revenue every month, and I'm looking at how are we comparing to our budget based on how much we receive for those prior. That's indicative to me whether or not we're on track or off track.
Committee, any other questions for the sheriff on this particular budget? There being none, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Johnson,
Second.
Commissioner Dodd. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, there being none, all in favor of this budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Sheriff, please continue, or Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a little suggestion? The last thing on the item here is 25. Can we move that up and get this along with the rest of it?
That's really not theirs.
It's not there? Okay. Just strike that sucker out then.
Which one?
Boy, we gained some time there. Traffic control.
I know which one you're talking about,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's a moot point then.
That's not there. So we're back to special controls.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, my recommendation on special patrols is $43,490.
Oh, did we vote
Exactly what
on
it was.
Did we vote on the sheriff's budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you vote?
I certainly did.
Just remember.
I thought I did.
The special patrols is like Betty, we get all that
Jeez,
reimbursed
that's
back to us
reimbursed
through the
us.
state.
Make a motion to approve special patrols.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Stevens Dodd made a motion. Stevens is second. Any other comments? And Sheriff, I assume that you agree with the mayor's
Yes,
recommendation?
I do.
Okay. Being no further discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is the administration of the sex offender registry. Mayor?
The Administration of Sex Offender Registry, I'm recommending $86,222. It's just a continuation budget.
In continuation, we agree with the mayor.
What is that? Is that like one position or?
It's a revenue
It's a
position,
revenue
so it has to be separate.
It's a separate item, but it's a revenue position, and we
It
have
brings in
somebody-
income.
income.
But the salaries and wages is one person
That's
that
correct.
manages this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Motion to approve with the caveat, of course.
Mr. Dodd?
Second.
Mr. Johnson? Any other comments or questions? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see. Now we're back to the jail. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, my recommendation for the jail is $19,884,532. They had requested 10 jailers. I recommended 5 jailers. Same example as with the sheriff's budget. We have under account number 399 is increased for off-site medical. And then account 790 is for new washer and dryers.
How many people
5 jailers.
that you
They
y'all
requested
They
negotiated?
requested 10.
5 left.
Yeah, we've
We kept
negotiated.
it 5. You really wanted to buddy up and have 2 per, I guess, shift it maybe.
Well, what we're trying to do was to, on our rover positions, to increase that, to give us additional coverage on rovers. And then at some point, we need to start opening up the control tower. But here again, in discussions with the mayor, understanding the complexity and the full part of the budget, I still here again need to do something for our existing people. And so this is more than willing to do this, and we agree with the mayor.
Seeing a 5% total increase. Again, that's not bad, and 5 more personnel is a fraction of your total budget.
That's correct.
And again, I'm harping on this one, Chairman, just seeing it from a public safety standpoint. I'm going on my 5th year on the commission. Jailers, jail guards, deputy patrolmen has been the big stress that I've heard in every year since day one. So I'm going to just stress that for us, kind of look at percentages. And so I intend to be coming back to this as we get the salary data on the 22nd.
Are we fully staffed? Are all your positions, and I meant to ask that in patrol and jail, fully filled right now?
No, sir, we're not. I've got 4 in detention, I've got four communications. We now have 4 SRO needs, 2 patrol, 1 court security, and 3 detectives. We did interviews today for detectives, and those selections are going to be made. The problem, it's good for those that are getting it, but on the other hand, it comes from existing personnel in other areas, namely usually patrol. So here again, as we move to detectives, then we're going to have 3 vacancies in patrol. So we'll be going out. Here again, one of the reasons that we're looking at a need for not only to help our existing employees, but this helps me recruit. And I'm not above going to other agencies.
Never been able to. but
Never
we're gonna
been able
start
to
maybe.
because I don't have anything to attract them. But if we got
Be fair play.
decent salaries, then what that saves me is 16 weeks of training that I'm not paying the state for because I'm getting a trained officer that comes in. We can give them SO training on our procedures or whatnot, because there's some differences in SO within the police agency. Train them, and then they're on the road, and we've got an experienced officer as opposed to somebody brand new off the street.
And again, that was part of what we discussed. We talked long and hard about it, and if I give him 5 more jailers, then he's going to have a hard time recruiting them because we haven't lifted the table to give him those higher salaries. So if we just give him 5 enough to get by this year, and we can lift the table, and he can go out and recruit, and maybe fill those 5.
Well, it's a 2-prong attack, really, as far as what we discussed is lift the table. One is I quit my bleeding where people are leaving me. A lot of times you get positions, you can't fill positions because you can't even fill what you're losing. So you're trying to fill what you're losing plus try to get the addition. So that's why in our discussions, I'm extremely interested in this wage and salary because it's just going to help us so much. Retention's going to be huge, huge. And if we quit what's going out the door, then I think we could see where we will start being able to grow and keep who we bring in. I think it's going to reap tremendous dividends for us.
What do the numbers look like for your communications officers? I know that's been a real struggle for you to get
It's a
those
struggle. We've had the entire year, we're down to 4, we've averaged 5 vacancies for the entire 12 months.
Just started training.
Just started training
Monday.
2 new ones today.
It's already in the budget.
Just came in today.
Right, I'm asking though, with the upgraded salary plan,
It puts us competitive.
okay,
Yes, it does.
you feel like you'll get those filled?
It does.
It's like a 11% increase for them.
I'm sorry?
You get like 11% increase if
It depends on where the scale, but yeah, so
Yeah.
you lift your table. and
2.5 for the
2.5 or whatever.
3% between grades, and we raised it from a 16 to a 19. So you
One of the
got-
things, it's not a clerical job, and there's so many people look at this as it's not a clerical job, it is a skilled job, and extremely stressful. So to keep qualified people, we're gonna have to pay them to be able to keep them. And that's one of the things that we have had trouble is in attracting from other agencies, somebody that's already trained and skilled, and they're not interested in us.
You said you've got 3 open SRO positions, is that right?
Yes.
Did you agree? So are those, there's 4
Four,
SROs?
is it four, I'm sorry.
So are those for the new schools?
I'm sorry?
Are those for the new schools, or
No.
those are in existing
No,
schools?
that's,
Openings.
it's openings.
So-
We
so-
funded.
I know we funded, right.
For
The-
next year's.
I know, but I understood that they were vacant positions. that
They,
funded but vacant.
got those online, because I had talked with Mr. Spurlock and I made a promise I'd have Oakland covered like when we did. We got that, we've been able to fulfill ours, but the other problem now, I've got my sergeants and whatnot who should be overseeing several schools. They're having to go and supplement where we don't have somebody, so they're spending part of their time in those schools.
Okay. So when we open in August, those schools will have their SROs?
Yes, ma'am, they will. Yes, ma'am.
Line item 710, did you cover the food service equipment? I noticed there's a pretty significant jump there.
In 17.
17?
Oh.
710, I'm sorry.
I need, because they don't work. need 2 tilt skillets, 3 double ovens, and 2 food steamers. And I had my equipment book here last week, but now I'm looking at possible prices and bidding and stuff like that, so I left it. But all of that equipment came up to around 90. And I already had 3 quotes on each piece of equipment, so that's why I can give you, I think, a pretty firm number. It should, if you bid it out, it should come down below that.
I would
actually,
hopefully
the
be
quotes.
below that, but that's what we're feeling like it'll be in the ballpark for that equipment.
Is that something that the schools would have on bid?
They don't use
They don't use
exactly
exactly what we use.
The schools help me out all the time, so I speak with them quite a bit. on
And I guess to say the need for this, we're preparing right at 1 million meals a year at our facility, so this is what we use to.
It's 21,000 a week.
Yeah, it's a lot of food, but, and of course, that's obviously required by law, 2,400 calorie count. Federal government controls that part of it. TCI comes in and that's part of the review, is what are we feeding? And then obviously, one of the things they look at is our kitchen equipment, and that's part of our certification. So,
2 of the things I'm asking for are not working at all right now. So if I have a steamer down, that slows, if any of, I think we've had a few cafeteria kids before.
yeah.
Nothing, I mean, that slows everything down about that steamer, and it will work. It will not work.
I have to just share one observation I made when we were going through the jail that I was surprised about, and there was a sign posted over a certain set of meals that were kosher
Yes.
or gluten-free, or, yeah, I mean, it just never occurred to me that you were gonna have to specialize so specifically, you know, in that way, so.
Well, we do by population, by law, we have to feed special meals depending on our population. Medical, we have to provide,
all the same.
anybody on a medical meal or whatever, then we have to provide special
All the
meals
same
for those. So it's quite a
It's about
production.
200 a day.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then there was a really positive story on Channel 5 last night.
Yes.
Just want to brag on it for a second, about a parenting class with an inmate. And it put your group in a very positive light, so I just wanted to say congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. That's one of the programs that we're very proud of, and it's allowing kids to get to see their mother.
Well, and just like you're talking about equipping, you know, folks to lead to be better employees, you know, we're also equipping them to lead to be better parents, so, which is awesome.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of the same programs at the work center, and of course, the thing that the work center is doing, Vectronics and whatever, we feed that population. So
If we get that at the correctional work center, you can feed.
yeah, we can bring ours over, but a lot of their inmates are inmates that have come from us, so we constantly, every week, we're sending them inmates out of our facility.
You also help the juvenile detention?
No, sir.
We can't mix those two.
We can't
Well,
mix them.
I was just talking about food service.
No, sir. They've got their own separate food
It's all
service.
separate.
Actually, I think the work center
Work center.
prepares their meals for them, since they're in close proximity.
Yeah, okay.
Take over juvenile.
Mr. Johnson?
How many meals a day are you mandated to serve? 3 or 2? 3. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was 2. I don't know.
No,
We go back a
we're
long
going
way,
back a
Mr.
long
Johnson. We
way.
used to give
Yeah.
bologna sandwich.
Yeah, we're past those days.
They got 2. One was a sandwich.
Yeah, one was on a plastic tray, yeah. We're past those days.
I remember from times past in the budget, said, well, Sheriff, you're gonna have to slice that bologna a little bit thinner.
You got that, man. It's-
I remember that, don't you, Trey?
I think Commissioner Bullock still remembers that.
I think he does too. That went over like lead balloon.
Yeah, we moved a little bit beyond that now.
What can we do, if anything, to reduce this other contracted services for healthcare?
Dr. Rudd.
That's under
Dr. Rudd.
contract.
If you'll
Dr.
remember,
Rudd's
Commissioner, in 2017, we redid the medical contracts. The contract that Dr. Rudd got came in about 2.1 million less than his closest competitor.
Does he do the workhouse also?
He's workhouse
And
and juvenile.
juvenile.
Yes, sir. They're separate. They're 3 separate contracts because there's the services. Ours is a 24-hour operation. if we send somebody to the workhouse, or if they've got somebody that requires acute medical care, then they send them back to us, and then we house them at our facility.
We just renegotiated his contract. Remember when was that?
We defined some
We defined some
costs, what we would
Yeah,
pay and what
we
we wouldn't
did.
pay.
We defined some cost with it. Actually, we called some things out, told him we didn't want to pay for it. He agreed to it.
He agreed to it.
So,
But that's
Still, this is
something we've watched very
3%,
closely, and like I said, in 2017, we redid the whole medical contract. God knows, Fred and I read books like this, of medical, I never read it, but anyway, he was about 2.1 million less than the closest bid that we had. So, although it's a very expensive process, I think we're getting the best bang for them all on that.
and actually, there was an incident that you all had an inmate got transferred over to the Correctional Work Center. The first day that the guy was there, he collapsed. He had meningitis. We took him to St. Thomas. And after Dr. Rudd evaluated him one night at the jail, got him to St. Thomas, couldn't determine the strain of the meningitis, so we took him to Centennial in Nashville. That was in October. He's still at our nursing home here. But Dr. Rudd actually went down and met with the senior vice president of HCA and negotiated down
It was 1.5 million.
1.5 million, what our cost was going to hit us. And I think that I was just concerned that because he was paralyzed from the waist down at one point, I thought I got him out to the community care. I said I'd rather have him at our facility if our budget's going to have to pay for it from now on. So they have now, Terry out there has got him to the point to where all he's got is a trach, and they got him up, they've rehabbing him, and I think you all have already waived his.
He's been waived. So
has been waived on the continuation of his sentence, and we're going to get him out of there as quickly as possible and send him back home.
And the advantage that we have with Dr. Rudd as far as the contract, he's available to us. He's there every day, and then he's there 24 hours every day. He comes at night, all hours. He goes actually to the hospital, and if we've got somebody that has to go over there for whatever reason, he gets them back to us a whole lot sooner than what we normally would have. If they stay in the hospital, then they start going against a cap that we've got as a 1.4 million cap, so that the meter starts ticking in another line item.
And I didn't say how much he negotiated it down to. It went from 1.5 million, we got down to about 250.
It was 250. So he saved us.
He saved us that kind of money.
And over the years that have been on public safety, I've heard this over and over again, where he's gone in and negotiated prices for us and got those lowered. So that's nothing new. I mean,
It's invaluable.
Yeah.
It really is.
You were going to try to pursue TennCare for some of that. Did you go this route with Dr. Rudd instead, or are you still doing both?
We did try TennCare, and they said he wasn't eligible. We did check that.
Most of the time when they go to jail, all their benefits are
All their
dropped.
benefits are
Especially
dropped.
veterans, which really irritates me that veterans lose their benefits while they're
If they come in incarcerated, they lose their benefits.
So it's
And
not,
we used to send them to the CA
not
hospital
right.
here locally, and that stopped, so.
they did stop them. They're still a veteran, prison or not, so they shouldn't lose their benefits.
But medical is the greatest part of this 6.2.
That's correct. It is.
All it is.
That's all it is.
The increase as far as Dr. Rudd is in the 3-year contract. There is a built-in that each year there's a stipulation for X%. And that's just not a big built-in. It was negotiated at the time, and then it was in the contract, so it was compared against all the other, I think it was 3 other bids that we had. So we compared that portion of it also against the other bids.
I got another question. Sure. What's the state rate now on state prisoners? How much is it?
$39.
And how much does it cost today?
It's costing us about 63.
So,
So
and they raised that just recently, didn't they?
a year and a half ago, they went from 37 to 39, and
I just wish they'd
They-
build
they-
some prisons, come do
they,
it.
they telling us what a great job, and we said thank you, but
Come
we need
get 'em.
more. We need more. So, but that's what we're getting back right now.
Is there a certain number of state prisoners that they mandate you to have, or?
We're not mandated. The problem that we've got is when we get a state prisoner is bed availability. And so we're in competition with 94 other counties for those same beds. One of the things that we've got right now is there are, I'm gonna say 10, I think it's probably a little bit, but about 10 jails that are decertified now because of overcrowding. There are some jails that contract for state prisoners, but I just don't see any benefit for us doing
Is
so.
it federal?
Yeah. No, we don't keep no federal prisoners.
Yeah, we used to, years past, we used to do federal marshal.
That's correct.
Because we got a higher rate.
Yeah, but I will say this, that we have no prisoners in our facility that are convicted anywhere other than Rutherford County.
That's good.
We do not house prisoners from other counties. Occasionally, if we've got charge partners or whatnot, then we'll trade off with Medford or whatever. We'll take one of theirs and they'll take one of ours, so they won't be together in a jail. But it's always usually on a trade-off basis. But that's rare. It's just on a case-by-case basis. More than you ever want to know about jail, isn't it?
Commissioners, you've heard the discussion. I'd entertain a motion if someone's ready to put one out there.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Johnson.
And I'll remember this one, okay?
Mr. Dodd. And I'm not trying to rush the discussion ending,
I was waiting on a roll call a while ago.
so we can continue discussion if there is any. There being none, all in favor of this budget, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Yeah, you get the special.
Tab 7. Mr. Chairman, the Special Purpose DEA Fund is on tab 7, members, if you'll flip to tab 7. And I'll defer to Ms. Nolan for explanation.
This is the one where we can't estimate an amount that we're going to get from the DEA. The only money that we've got estimated is interest. There is an amount just estimated for expenses. This is just a placeholder, just to have a little piece of money there in case they need it in July. But after we close our books, this is the one that they come back in August, and whatever rolled into fund balance that they didn't spend, they come in and reappropriate them at that time. This is one every month you'll remember that we get it a sheet every day. Any money that they got in that month, they appropriated that month. So it's just a little weird fund here. But bottom line, they only spend what they get.
They don't get much, do you?
Well, I mean, when you look at it on that page,
Every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps, that's correct. You know, we started the current year with 10,000, and then throughout the year, it's at 141,000, money that they didn't spend last year or money that they got during the current year.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner, thank you. We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Allen. Are there any other questions for either the mayor, sheriff, or the budget director? As you recall, we do see these almost monthly. So, there being no other discussion, all in favor of this budget signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is the drug fund.
Mr. Chairman, same thing, members, just flip to tab 8. I'll defer to Ms. Nolan, same thing.
Revenue, we're estimating $343,500 with expenditures at $537,000. That's using their fund balance of $193,500, but we're estimating their beginning fund balance to be $423,991. This will end estimating at their ending fund balance to be $230,491. There's no salaries in this fund. There is, you see a transfers to other fund of $50,000. That's their contributions toward the overtime for the, call them NARCs, but probably better. Arts is the right term.
Yeah.
Those guys that do that kind of business. This is a contribution out of the drug fund to help fund that overtime.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I believe that's got us caught up now.
Thank you all very much, appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all being able to articulate your budget so well and finding support at your fingertips. So
Thank you very much.
makes our job so much easier.
Okay, ambulance service fund.
Have five.
You're going, Miss.
Mr. Chairman, my recommendation, this is almost the last one. Next to last, anyway. My recommendation for the total on EMS is $15,589,881. Now, we are, we've eliminated 2 positions at the ambulance department. When 2 of those positions left, along with Mr. Nunley as the director, I, on a temporary basis, appointed Mr. Hutchins, better known as Cuz, and Melanie Machoto as interim co-directors. Mainly Carl on the outside, Melanie on the inside, and they've done an excellent job of maintaining our ambulance service. Never missed a beat. And we are, and the application's closed.
Both positions have closed.
Okay, so we have the resumes in, and we'll be interviewing probably next week for the 2 positions, but so also in this budget, we transferred 1 position to fire and rescue, which came from the ambulance department that actually oversees SORT. If you recall back when we were looking at that, and we moved under Chief Farley's, that SORT truck over, we took, Chris, who's our transfer person?
Adam Rose.
Adam Rose.
Adam. We transferred Adam from that 1 position to fire and rescue from the ambulance department.
And then this is what they requested that we did not put in.
They also recommended, or they requested paramedics, let's see, 6 paramedics and 1 paramedic for the convalescents. They requested 3 in communications and 1 EMT for convalescents, for a total of $689,366. And I did not recommend those until we can go through this process of the reorganization of this process. And once we get a new director, probably by next week, we'll let them make that recommendation, but we feel comfortable with this.
Well, we still have time to come back and revisit that if needed. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Are you?
I believe that we can move forward without that recommendation.
But the convalescence is on a pilot program, ends in September.
It ends in September, that is correct.
I think that's what you had said, that you did not want to recommend a convalescent until after that
After September.
period.
Until after that period.
I'm going to remind everybody, this is the fund that in total revenue estimate is at nearly $13,600,000, and appropriations as presented is nearly $15,600,000, so we're short
This
2
is-
million. This is one that do not have sufficient fund balance at this time to take care of it. This is one that y'all need to think about adding additional revenue.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I didn't give them the 689, 366 on that recommendation, trying to preserve, that out of balance. But Carl and Melanie feels like that they can operate. Matter of fact, they've gone in and Carl's gone in and reevaluated the different shifts. He feels like that if we can get 2 or 3 trucks going at 12-hour shifts, we can do some good things there and save some money as well, right, Carl?
Yes, sir, I think it's going to improve response time and burnout time on our people too. And I see nothing but positive coming out of it.
What is our total amount that's outstanding from like patient charges that hasn't been collected? I see we've got 126,000 estimated revenue.
On the convalescent or the 911 trucks?
On the regular 911 calls.
Right now, we've got 4 million outstanding.
I know we have that collection company that we hired a while
Yes.
ago. Do we actually sue people that,
No, we don't.
so I think that's something we need to look at doing, because if somebody gets a lawyer.
We did that years ago, and it was taking up a lot of time and going to court and everything, but if you all would like to.
Well, that's a
for us
lot of
look
money
at it.
to
Yes.
write off and let go, and that might
Yes.
fill in that
There's your
gap
2 pennies.
substantially.
That may be something we could look back at.
You know,
Excuse me, go ahead.
hire a law firm or somebody to do
Right.
that and just pay them a percentage of whatever they collect. When people get letters from lawyers, it really scares them to get their checkbook out. And then if they have to go to court, they have to pay the court costs if they lose
Right.
too. So, whether they've got money to collect, I always tell people getting a judgment is the easiest thing you'll ever do, and getting your money is the hardest thing you'll ever do.
Right.
But if you can garnish or collect some of this money that just been written off or lost or whatnot, I think that will help us close our gap. So,
Having been on public safety in the past, when we were actually doing this before this company, we actually increased by quite a bit when we went to this company as far as revenues that we were getting. So I don't know what they're doing, differently. Of course, as they're saying, we're not pursuing them legally right now, but there's an option.
I think that'll bring in some money. And what is the amount this company's authorized to settle for?
If they pay in full, we usually accept, we write off 20%. So they pay 80% of it.
Is it something that, under our legal services agreement, that maybe our attorneys could write the letter and send it out? At least that initial letter that you would send out? Is that something we could?
It might be. How many patients? It's probably hundreds and hundreds
We
of patients.
transport about 2,800. We have about 2,800 runs a month.
But if you set it up in an Excel spreadsheet with their name and their address and how much
Merge
they
mail,
owe,
right.
you just do a mail merge on the letter and print out the labels, and, it,
Yeah, that might be something they could do, and that might bring
just
in
that
some extra
initial
money.
letter anyways. I don't know. I don't know if that's something that's covered under that agreement. The mayor would have to look at that, but that might be a good idea.
Well, if it's not something that they'd be interested in pursuing farther, then there are law firms out there that just do collections only, and you give them 20 or 30% of whatever they collect.
Kind of like
They
our
go after-
delinquent taxes.
They go after it, and they want their 20 or 30%, so they're gonna go after it. You can't get blood out of the stone, try to get the stone.
This is true.
What is line 530, assessments and penalties?
That is it's a state program, TennCare, and they started it, I think, a couple of years ago. We pay, and to quote Mark, you pay Peter, or rob Peter to pay Paul, or
That's the money we get.
Yeah.
We get hit with
pay,
the bill,
pay,
we
pay
pay
the
and
bill
then
out,
we
but then we
receive.
get the money back
Yes,
too. So-
and we
so
receive more than we pay out.
it goes in like
Yes.
it's a circle.
Yes.
And then the next one, the 599 other charges.
That is our, that was our sort team, but now it includes, and now that that's gone to county fire, we've cut it 50,000, but that still includes the SWAT team. We have members on the SWAT team and our community relations.
And then in 707, the building improvements, you'd asked for 584.5. Well, we gave you 10.
We cut out the sort addition
Okay, it's
and
gonna be a construction project.
Yeah.
We got some,
That's correct.
Yes. And also we were going to remodel the education room at Lytle Street. We took that out. The only thing we left in, and then there was a security fencing for critical infrastructure at our dispatch center, and I guess that's all part of the communications overhaul that they're doing. We took that out. So the only thing that's left is the $10,000 for the, we need to update our security system at all our buildings.
Okay.
What does that entail as far as updating?
it's where you've seen us swap the badges to, because anytime a station is out, that unit's out, we have a card. I actually have mine in my, hold this up to the sensor and it opens the door. And only certain people can enter those.
And then on your 1709 data processing equipment, that went up quite a bit. What was that? Went from 59 to 113?
We need to purchase tough pads for the CAD in our response vehicles.
And then your motor vehicles went down by 50,000. You asked for 1.3, and we actually went down by 50,000.
We had asked for 4 new ambulances, and now we're requesting 2 and 2 remounts.
What's a remount?
It's where we take the box off the original unit and put it on a new chassis.
Jacked up money.
And then your health equipment went from 178 to 205. You'd asked for 658. That's on 735.
Those were the automatic CPR machines. I spoke with the mayor about those, and he agreed to let us keep 2, and we could put those on the furthest out units, like in Eagleville and maybe Christiana, that's has the furthest transport to the hospital.
To do CPR for however long it takes to drive from Eagle, doing chest compressions and CPR, that's a long time to keep
That's
doing that
exhausting.
repetitively, for 20 minutes. So those machines would come in handy, but we cut the rest of them. We've actually cut this budget based on the request. We've cut it a lot, and we're still upside down.
The administration vehicles, we cut those out. We're good. And equipping those, spoke with the mayor, and I was able to take that out too. And we'll be perfectly fine with what we have.
I want to go back to this outstanding amount. Was that 4 million like for the last year, or is that?
No, that's
all
forever,
total?
yes.
Okay.
How did this budget get into this condition?
I mean, well, we've taken pennies away, and we've added.
Was it
We've
off
just
last year?
always kept this barely funded.
So it was barely funded last year.
Yes.
It was okay last year.
Well, we had, again, I did bring my budget, but I mean, I think we were upside down on this fund as well. Well, I can tell you, it's right up here, that first page.
We went on what upside down?
Well, we adopted the budget the current year, 1.9 million upside down. So we're just, that's why. So I'm saying it wasn't sufficiently funded. I don't have my fund balance of what we had, but we were able to cover it, but we can't cover it anymore.
How many pennies have been taken away from the tax? I was thinking, it used to be like 9 cents.
I was 10. I'm thinking in the very beginning when we started, it was 10 cents. But of course, it
I think
changes
so.
with the assessment. It's not the same. Can I get back with you on how much we've taken? Somebody asked me how much we've taken. It was 10 cents at the beginning. Yeah, I think it was too. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to say 10 down to 5 because some of it is because of reappraisal, the number is less. But the other thing, if you will indulge me, kind of a conversation following up from last night on our property casualty insurance that we've talked with, that little piece that we talked about last night. The new company allocated also for the ambulance. In the past, the general fund has been covering all their costs. So I need to add into their budget $27,430 is their portion of that insurance premium.
Do you remember, I guess in the years when we, so going from 10 to 10 cents, 5 cents, it's not all of it's through reappraisal. Has it been where we've taken a maybe penny here, penny there, and put it into another fund?
That's what I'm getting ready to look.
Okay.
Because I can't remember.
We have, and I recall doing that on a couple of occasions.
I guess my question is maybe how much and where did that?
I think some of that went to debt service, and I want to say we took a couple of cents. It's been several years ago.
In the general fund.
When we put some in the general fund?
We've taken money out of the general fund and put it into debt service.
And then maybe some of this has gone to debt service.
Okay, I've got it up to that. Let me get on over. Okay, so in 2009, Jeff, we were close. 9.75 pennies is what we did start this fund. That was in 2009. We had a reappraisal, dropped it to 8.79. We took a half a penny out for the 2011 year. We took 2.5 cents out for the 2013 year. It dropped like a penny and a half for reappraisal. And the 15 year, we did transfer from the general fund to ambulance 1 cent. And then with the reappraisal, this last one, it went down 1.43 cents.
So a total, it's currently is.
It's 518.
518.
Have we ever considered putting this service out for bid?
Ambulance service? Well, I've just been there 9 months.
Not.
I'm just asking in general.
Not in my years that I've been there.
Is the county required to have that as a county function, or can it be?
The county there's 2 functions that the county does that we are not required to do, and that's ambulance and animals.
I would just be interested if we did put it out for bid, like what kind of service would be provided, and what would the cost be to the county? Would we have to subsidize that?
I would say you would. Williamson, you want to talk about Williamson?
We did, who was that company? They out of Knoxville, what's the name of? Who are they?
AMR,
No,
Rural Metro.
Rural Metro.
They're AMR now.
They are, okay. So I don't know how many years ago it was. We did look at some of the services that they provide, how many, ambulances they have per territory, per square miles and those type things. I've got some of that information if you, but we just found that it was more cost effective and a better quality service and response times to our citizens than what we would get from a contracted service.
Right, there's
I'm
more
not
to
saying
it
that
than
could not
just
be changed, I'm just saying.
than just $1. I want to be sure that the service would be provided too, but I didn't know if that was an option we had to look at, what could be provided when we get out of having the shortfall that way.
When I came in back in the fall, there was some threads and discussion between the city and the county. We've gotten all that smoothed out, but the city did come out. Mayor McFarland did talk about that they were going to look at starting their own ambulance service, and I think they did get some. They never shared with me what their numbers were. All I heard was that their numbers came in and it kind of shocked them, so they chose not to continue going down that road. So But since that time, you've worked with Mark Folks, the Murfreesboro City Fire and Rescue, and everything's a great working relationship compared to where it was 9 months ago.
That's something I want to point out. You know, these guys have really made a big difference in that aspect, as far as how we interact with other agencies in this county, municipalities, and volunteers and all. And I want to thank you both for that. So.
I think too, Commissioner, that's why they were going the route of the convalescents to help subsidize and not be
Help
so
offset.
as reliant on the property tax. But until they get up and going fully, you're not going to
And Melanie, what
have it next year.
do you have numbers on April yet? Or
Yes, I sent that. Did you bring them with you?
did it increase? Is it continuing?
Yes, it has
No.
increased.
Just county, they're county taxpayers.
They're county taxpayers. I
If
mean,
they were gonna get out,
I mean, when you look at it, it's not,
Well,
it's,
we would have had to cut, and that's what I told Mr. Nunley, we were gonna have to cut probably 60% of our ambulance service, because that's where 60% of
It's in
the
the city.
calls come from in the city, and it would devastate us. And so that's where I was negotiating with the city, going, we don't need to be doing this, okay?
I think when I looked, we were like $70,000 behind what we had collected in the convalescent.
Okay. But it's increasing every month.
Yes, it is.
when I looked at revenues to expenses, and I know that our revenue
Yes.
runs
Oh.
a little bit
Yes,
behind.
right.
But when I
Yes.
April back to it, you did make money, but
Okay. But it still has,
still
it's
coming.
still not self-sufficient.
it's self-sufficient, yes.
Okay.
As, I mean,
It's
end of
not making-
April,
but it's not making
self-sufficient.
extra
It's
money.
not
Right.
huge
Okay.
amounts.
Right.
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. Y'all have not ramped
But
up.
we are increasing every month.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's paying its way.
It is paying its way.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the point, is this
Yes.
cost that we've got for convalescence, the revenue for convalescence is covering it. We just want it to cover plus.
Is the revenue coming in?
Yes.
Yeah, we want the
Being
plus.
collected.
Yes.
It's not adding to the formula.
It's not adding to the money.
Yeah, that's a right check.
Mr. Stevens, about hiring a private service. I know this down in Alabama. There's been several counties that had it, and they come in the next morning and they're shut down. And it winds up costing that county a whole lot more, because they're having to get another service from another county to come in and try to, the dependability of it is based on what their profit's going to be. And, you know, I would just consider that, I've seen it happen a lot down there. It's on the news a lot. Around the Garnersville, Scottsboro area.
That was actually gonna be one of my questions, is that if it's not required by the county to do it, if we didn't do it, what would happen?
Well, I mean, I think you'd be
Yeah, I mean-
answering to your citizens. Then I guess I look at it as,
No,
it's
I'm
not
s-
required, but
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about it from a political standpoint. I'm saying if I call 911 and I need an ambulance and the county doesn't provide that as a service, what happens?
Depend on the convalescent service, would you know?
I mean, if you didn't have it, I mean, if you didn't have the whole
They
thing
don't have
going.
the whole department, yeah.
Yeah, but there's
Once upon a
private businesses that are doing that.
They're not responding they're not responding to emergencies, are they?
But they would be all be left.
Well, back in the day, back when funeral homes used to pick you
Yeah,
up.
actually, I went back and,
It was Bubba, I'm being serious.
when we were going through all this stuff, I actually went back and we looked at the history records, and it was in 1972 when the county commissioner were called squires, and Squire Murphy stood up and recommended Mike Nunley to be the first in front of the quarterly court, to be the first director of the ambulance service, because prior to that, it was Woodfins and Jennings and Ayers, and all they ran was a meat wagon. It was basically a white hearse with a cherry on top, and it was to get that body, throw them in the back and go as fast as they could to get to the hospital.
And you was on your own in the back.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's no
you made it,
CPR,
and
no, yeah.
you made it, but
get you there fast enough, so.
I'll give you an example of that. 105 years ago, when I was working the road, I was called to the scene of a wreck, and the funeral homes did that. Okay. A man got hit by a car in front of a beer joint. Okay. They carried him up there. I was talking to him when they left with him. Okay. They put him in the back, laying on his back. When I walked into the emergency room after I got through, he was dead.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me in 1972,
That's when the
if you
ambulance
call
service
for an
started.
ambulance, a hearse come get you?
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Yeah.
In 1970?
That's real motivating, isn't it?
71, actually.
Yeah.
Two, Mike stepped in.
71.
Squire
Well, that's like real recent history.
Depends on your perspective.
You're old, brother. See how old we are.
EMS is actually still in Eagle.
Still in high school.
Because I was born in 1970.
There was three,
I mean, I was
you
alive.
had your choice. There was three that could come.
And they just throw you in a hearse and hoped you made it.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly right. We
Find
had the
somebody who
fastest
used to
hearses
drive
in
for
the
the
county,
funeral home. They
state.
got some really good stories.
Yeah, who got there first got paid.
My father used to do it.
Well, it was. That was the first one that got there. And they used to play games of blocking the other one from pulling up the next scene because they got paid for it.
He's offended.
Go, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm gonna roll things back in.
Bring us in.
Now, I do want to make sure that you do agree with the budget. I think you did on the
Yes,
front
sir.
end. So are there any other pertinent questions that we can ask the committee?
Mr. Chairman, before we adopt that, Lisa has two
Yeah, that's right, just,
transfers.
yeah. Well, that changes the bottom line total. Oh, I thought I wrote
I'm at
this.
16, 616,
You already did it for me?
With one, this is the 20, with the 27,000.
Yes, that's what I need to add.
16, 616, 884, I believe.
Okay, what did you
I
add?
had
the
a
bottom?
27 to the 15, 5, 89, 881.
Okay, I got. when I
I'm
added-
going with you, girl. What you
Okay,
got?
I've got 15,617,310.
You're correct.
Is that what you got?
Good enough.
He said, yes, I did.
Exactly what I got.
That's what I heard him say.
I was on the wrong.
I was on the wrong page.
15,617,310.
310.
310.
Gotcha.
We got 311 because there's a 1 on the end.
Oh, well, okay, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm looking off my thing. There was a $1 difference between us.
311.
Yes,
One George Washington
yes,
difference.
add a 11, plus $1.
So their
No,
total
this is coming,
has
this
changed
system
there.
is $1 off.
Did they drop the 1s in Moore County? Is that what they did?
They rounded up.
Now,
Yes.
Lisa, repeat the total one more time here, please.
Okay. 15,617, 311. Okay, 311. I forgot we had a
And what are you
$1
adding besides the 27,000?
It is going to be under, the 502 is going to be, 502 is 2,775, 506 is 24,655. One is property casualty, the other one is liability. We'll drop that in. It's going to be in the top section.
15,617, 311.
Yes.
We have a lift off.
Okay,
Is that in the form of a motion?
that's what I heard. Is that a motion?
That's my recommendation.
Yeah.
Recommend, I like the motion that we approve this.
Okay, I have a motion. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Mr. Allen, thank you. Is there any further discussion?
So the current plan is to shift to pennies.
That would be my recommendation. When we get down to setting tax rate for publication, I mean, we'll be revisiting that. That's what I would recommend. I would not recommend it taken out the general fund. I would recommend it taken out debt service, or you can add to the tax rate.
And that's the discussion we've had year after year, what we're doing with debt fund service and where to take that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank y'all.
Thank
We're very
you.
glad to see y'all.
Good to see you all.
Actually, you're about an hour and a half, 2 hours ahead of us last night.
We got one little one. Thank you.
Okay, traffic control.
Mr. Chairman, my recommendation on traffic control is maintenance, repair, and utilities for a total of $20,000. That's on page 25.
What is this, it's traffic lights? Okay, this is lights. And I meant to bring, it was lights, some at the Speedway.
Page 40, there's one over there, there's one on 96 that I know of on Compton and where it crosses 96. I'm not sure about the other, but there's.
Those are
4 or 5
specifically for
places.
state mandated traffic lights or
Well,
state
there's
routes.
traffic lights that are actually out in the county and we're required to maintain those, so.
Right.
Motion to approve.
So one is for utilities, the other one is.
Second that. Does Greg look after, does the highway look after those, Public Works?
You know, I'm not sure about that.
That's for another topic. I'm good.
I think actually Middle Tennessee, we just turn it in and Middle Tennessee works on it, then we get a bill from Middle Tennessee and we pay it. I believe it's.
Middle Tennessee Electric?
Or Murfreesboro.
Murfreesboro
I
Electric.
second Rhonda's motion.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other business, Mayor?
No, sir.
Okay, we're adjourned, folks.